Hi, my name is Sarah Dirks, and for 852 School Community Relations, this is my understanding Blue Valley Northwest slideshow. First off, Blue Valley Northwest is one of 5 high schools in the Blue Valley School District. We are the school district generally has high academic achievement, high athletic performance. Specifically in our school, what I think sets us apart is that we have tremendous school spirit and tradition. We have a lot of things within our building that are very sacred when it comes to school spirit, and our kids really buy into that. They also buy into high academic achievement, and so we have high graduation rates, high ACT scores, with your random outliers, which I think you're going to find in most schools and school districts. Specifically, we are located in Johnson County, Kansas, which is, and in Overland Park off Johnson County, Kansas. So both of those are high achieving areas in affluence, and the expectations for our students and our staff is geared towards healthy lifestyles and practices. And that ties into how our student body acts and looks. Our school and county are primarily Caucasian. Majority of the diversity that we see leans towards our Indian and East Asian counterparts. A lot of that is due to the influx of our tech community and Sprint and some other tech companies and architecture and engineering firms that are located at Overland Park. So when those companies recruit, they talk about Blue Valley as a school district they want to send their kids to. We did have some minor slip-ups and right after the tech or the housing issue of 2008 and 10, but since then we've seen a significant growth in our community. And we are seeing a shift in our demographics and diversity, mainly due to the reputation of the school district. People want to live here. They want to send their kids to school here. And when it comes to sending your schools here, it's because we have great teachers who teach up-to-date curriculum. You're not going to see a lot of teachers who back away from moving forward with brand new standards, even when sometimes they get a little pushback, specifically in science, which is what I teach. Once the NGSS standards came out, we spent 2 years aligning our curriculum in spoken sequence, and right now we're going to start adding in some other science and engineering practices has been in there, but we're really focusing on those because that's a push. Problem-solving skills, and then also our SEL, our social and emotional learning, is something that our district really is pushing. Unfortunately, sometimes with that change, teachers and students and parents struggle. And but all in all, I think there's a trust within our district and within our area that everything we're doing is for the best of our students. So if you want to look at our population, we are 9 through 12 high school. If you're looking at our staff, the majority, we have about 100 teachers, majority will hold a master's degree. There's a good handful that are nationally board certified and a few that are actually finishing up in the next month or so. And so we have great teachers in our building and they stick around. We've had a few that have been there since the building opened in 1993. We are a school of 1,600 students with a graduation rate of 98 to 97%, pretty much across the board. And we maintain that strong culture. Sometimes it's a detriment to some of our kids who don't necessarily buy into the academic culture. And so I think our district and our school is working towards how can we help those kids where college is not where they're headed. We want to keep them in school, give them the importance of a high school education, and then set them up for success post-secondary. Our sex breakdown, 52 to 48. Male to female. Our staff leans to be more female. In our math department, we have 3 males. In our science department, out of 3 males out of 16, and in our science department, it's 3 males out of 12. And so our teaching staff doesn't necessarily mirror our students. As for our community, most of our parents will lean towards white-collar jobs. We've got a significant number of doctors, lawyers, engineers, lots and lots of engineers. And our school specifically has a lot of small business owners. In the 2008 recession really hurt, but again, like I said earlier, we have found our way back. Demographically speaking, we are getting more diverse, but we are still fairly white, 73%, 4% African American, 6% Hispanic, and the 16% other is our Indian and East Asian population. One of the questions was about if that causes any tension, and I would say that if you asked our white students, probably not, but if you asked our Black students or Hispanic students, they feel that tension, and we're working how to best approach that. So in communicating to our community, Dr. Murphy, Dr. Presley, our principal, she uses a weekly newsletter that has a whole bunch of information in that. I think looking at the generation of parents that we have, email is a great method of communication, but when we look at our students and some of our younger staff members, they need to be using something like Twitter or Instagram. So we really lean heavily on a couple Twitter accounts, one that's through our student broadcast network, and then a couple that are just run by one of the administrators. And when it comes to how our parents communicate with each other, actually, we have a pretty tight-knit group of parents, and depending on the sport you're looking at or the organization, they'll talk to each other all the time, but I think through them, they probably get it through Facebook or social media. We have a local newspaper, Kansas City Star, that has a 913 section and has a Blue Valley parent that writes a op-ed every week. But I think Facebook or some other local magazines might be an area of communication of opinion or where we are right now. We have a very small ESOL population, at least at our school. And by the time they get to high school, most of our kids who are not native English speakers are pretty proficient. And if we are, I have 4 students in one of my classes, 2 from Arab nations and 2 from China, and our ESL teacher has been a gem, and those kids love her, and they get a ton of support. So, yeah. Lots and lots of opportunities for our kids to get involved. We have those national organizations, the honor societies, like in science, math, Spanish, French, art, and then we do have a student government that is tied to the national organization, but our kids can join they can create their own club. We have political science club, anime, ping pong, etc. Anything for our kids. We really encourage our kids to join a club or make one. And then we got a large group of young men who are in Boy Scouts and are seeking their Eagle Scout or have sought it. And then the structure of our district at building level influences on curriculum, but each subject area has its own instructional design coach. And so their job is actually to help us as teachers be on top of the new curriculum or new advances. And so we as teachers rely on them so we can do the job in the classroom. So these aren't people who are in the classroom, but they were, so they know what's important, and we go from there. As for our community groups outside of the school, we have a very strong parent booster club. I think if you went to any of our high schools, you'd see the same. And their job is to help all the organizations, but there are some, like our band and our football team and our basketball teams and our soccer teams have their own parent organizations that specifically will meet the needs of that organization. And I think there is this mutual respect between the administration, the coaching staff, the teachers, and the parents when it comes to everything we do. Sometimes it seems a little out of the ordinary, but it's all to meet the needs of the student. And as far as I can tell, there are parents who maybe want to get in the way, but then other parents come along and say, hey, let's let the school do this. Or they really push towards, hey, this parent has a great idea. And I think our administration hears them out. And as for teachers, the district dropped their affiliation with the National Education Association and created their own. And there's a tiny little discourse. There's a tiny sect that stayed with the national organization, but our district administration works really well with our NEA. We have a building principal, 3 associate principals, AD, curriculum and instruction, and activities, and they work with the leadership team to influence the ongoings. They meet about every other week, and then they have a big 3-day retreat in June right after school gets out to set kind of the goals for the year and the initiatives. Recently, they're making decisions about how to deal with student parking and staff parking. So those are decisions that don't just affect teachers, they affect everyone, including parents who come in to help, or paraprofessionals or itinerant teachers who have to go between buildings. And their decisions don't necessarily affect the whole community, but they could play a role in our perception. Like I said earlier, we have a lot of active members of our Parent Booster Club. Our current president is phenomenal, and she is great for kids, and she's great for teachers, and she's great for the admin. And I have the deepest respect for her, and she would do anything for our building. But at the same time, she would also step in when needed. And so it's good to know we do have parents that can see the big picture and the whole perspective. And she doesn't just look out for her kid, she looks out for all kids, and that's awesome. As for the economic conditions, I put a lot of stuff on this slide, but I really want to just focus on the next one. I found this in realtor.com. As for Overland Park, where we are, it's a big city, but we're in southern Overland Park, where our median family income is over $100,000. Our houses are close to $300,000. We've seen job growth, and it will continue. So we are doing very well, and our students, most of our students will benefit from that in the long run. I don't know how anyone could say that politics don't play a role in a public school, mainly when it comes to the budgeting issue. I know that in Topeka we've had some issues with budgets, but because Johnson County is such a healthy county, we don't necessarily feel the burn as much as some others. And I can tell you from a teacher perspective, I've gotten a raise for the past couple of years, which is great. And I don't have to teach 6 classes, and our class sizes aren't too big. So I feel like the politics I don't feel the effect of politics. And I think with the new governor in Kansas, we might see a difference. I'm not sure what the national level, I don't think they play a role in our day-to-day functions. As for social tensions, this is kind of interesting just because this very week I had a fight in my classroom, and I was telling somebody about it, and their first question was, well, was the kid black? And that frustrated me a little bit, but I kind of just let it slide off, because their first assumption was that the only people who start fights in our school are kids of color. There is some racial tensions, and I think you're going to find that when you have a predominantly white school and your African American or your Hispanic population is so small, because the kids just need to feel like they belong. But those aren't major incidences, and we have interventions in place to help those kids. But we have kids of all color and all backgrounds who struggle, and we just need to make sure that whatever we're doing is we're meeting it head on, and not putting it to the side and hoping that it'll deal with itself later. And I would say that in our building, cliques are not they're a thing, because we as humans, as biological animals, want to find our people, and we want to be with like-minded people, and kids are very notorious for that. When they feel like they've been left to their own devices, they're going to find people who believe in their message. I think each school is struggling with some sort of aspect of discrimination. Again, I mentioned this in the paper I wrote, but we were just, our building and our principal and our district were just sued for racial discrimination. I would say it probably happens more often than not, but it's just not reported. Kids don't say anything. They think, oh, I'll just deal with it, which is a shame, really. We need to do better to tackle issues of discrimination. And I think it's because of that second bullet. The perception of our community is that our families are well off, they're affluent, and so they're entitled, and we're not going to rock the boat by bringing things. And so when this lawsuit came in, it was a blow to our reputation and a blow to our community, for sure. Obviously, we keep all the records. I've seen the records room. It's huge. And I've seen where they keep all of the boxes with the past records. I think they're trying to go to a lot of electronic, but any sort of information, they send out surveys to kids all the time. We do that through our advisory, which is like a 20-minute period in the middle of the week. We do keep board minutes on the district website. As for power structures, I'm actually just going to read this. It says, it's widely understood and known and respected that our district personnel have all students and staff's best interest in mind when establishing policies and procedures. We assume positive intent as often as possible. In my short tenure, I've never seen power struggle within the admin or district office. I could be naive. I could be just in cloud nine, but I think anything that comes from the district, I have great respect for. There's times where I'm like, but I'm going to assume that the direction they're going in is what's best for students. And the relationship between the staff and the administration, the staff and the district office is pretty positive in that respect. When it comes to multicultural, again, I stated this earlier, people want to move into our district. And so we're going to see different backgrounds than we've seen before. And so we could call it an issue, but we can just say that, hey, our demographics are changing. What can we do to best meet the needs of that demographic? And so that comes to our race, that comes to our religion, that comes to sexuality. Our LGBTQ community is pretty significant these days, mainly because they feel more emboldened to be out. So how do we meet the needs of the parents who might be in same-sex relationships? How do we meet the needs of the kids? How do we meet the needs of kids of different religions? Beyond our Jewish students or Christian students, what about our Muslim students? What about our Buddhist students, our Hindu students, etc.? We do have a yearly diversity assembly that tries to highlight as much diversity in the building. Sometimes we fail, but for the most part, we do a decent job of that. I'm pretty sure I can do whatever I want in my building. I am the Diversity Council sponsor. I'm the student government sponsor. I coach bowling. I'm assistant coach. I like to say yes a lot. But I think the administration knows that where I come from is a place of kids first, always. Relationship first, always. And so when I come to them with a concern or with an ask, I generally get a yes. I don't think it's, I never felt punished, but I also of a place where everything's good between me and the administration. I do know people in our building that is not the case. And so I always like to come at what is best for the students, what is best for the staff, but I can't say that for everyone. But again, assume positive intent. So last couple slides here dealing with public opinion. I think in general, if you go and tell someone you work in Blue Valley, they're like, oh, okay. They just have this like idea of what Blue Valley is. It's generally positive. We have our moments. But in general, it's really not hard to maintain a positive atmosphere. And I think because of that, regardless of who lives in our area, bonds are going to get passed where money is going to go to the schools. People come to sporting events because they're good and our kids are going D1 and you're going to see some fantastic athletes. And whenever we need help, for example, our prom's coming up and the prom coordinator asked me about like, so do we pay for drinks? What do we do? I was like, you just ask parents and they will give you water, and she'll have more water than she'll know what to do with. And they will our parents will always support us. I picked this up. This is from our website. So this was like a 90-page customer assessment, and so they interviewed as many parents that would fill out the survey as possible. And this one, the A is obviously a good thing and the F is a negative thing. But the public opinion is, for the most part, we are above average in providing a quality education for our students. And they feel like their tax dollars are getting used well. And so that's a positive thing. And I think this last one is where we as a district really want to go, is preparing our kids for it says college ready, and I think we need to change that to post-secondary, but in general, I've had so many kids come back and say, Blue Valley was harder than some of my classes my freshman year, and so these kids are ready. And the public knows that. Professors know that. If